since I changed jobs, I've lost like 20 pounds. Yeah, I lost 10 last week.
Awesome. Just because you're moving around more?
Moving around and sweating, especially last week.
Summer helps.
Good evening, and welcome to the July 11th, 2016 legislative session. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I would ask each of you to silence your cell phones or any objects that will make noise. Should you need to take a call, we ask that you please go out in the hallway in order to do so. In case there's an emergency, please exit this room, make a right-hand turn and go down the stairs. If that exit is blocked for any reason, please make a left and then a right and down the stairs. And if you need assistance, please let us know and we'll be happy to help you. At this time, I'd like to call on Reverend Thomas Tucker of St. Paul AME Zion Church for the invocation. Reverend Tucker.
Thank you, sir. Let us pray. Almighty God, you are our creator and our sustainer. You are our light and our fortress. You are our wisdom and our strength. We ask that your wisdom would guide us as we seek to accomplish the goals of our agenda tonight. Thank you for the opportunities that you give us to serve you and to serve others. And may we approach our task with wisdom, and may we approach our members with respect. May our conduct create an environment of cooperation and kindness. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work this day. We ask all of these things in the marvelous, matchless, majestic, mighty name of Jesus the Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Tucker. Please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize our favorite delegate, Carl Anderton, in the back.
I'll take that.
Welcome. Just kidding. No. I'm just getting back from vacation, so you have to excuse me. I'm still halfway on vacation. The community organization presentation tonight is going to be given by Andrea Bursler, our esteemed executive director of the library, and the subject matter is adult literacy. Andrea, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you. I promise this will be as brief as I possibly can make it. You should have received just a few things to let you know what your public library is up to, including a copy of our summer reading newsletter. We are doing, of course, our summer reading program right now. We traditionally have about 1,500 students who sign up to participate in this, and several hundred adults and teens who also sign up, and we have programs for all ages. So I encourage you to stop over and check out what we're doing at the library. It's some really cool stuff. I also wanted to include this little card that looks a little like a cell phone. This is Hoopla. This is one of our newest digital resources. It provides you with free access to digital movies, music, ebooks, graphic novels, and audiobooks. So if you like listening to books, if you like reading, ebooks, if you like watching movies or listening to music, you can get them. You can stream them free to your mobile device or your computer. And then I have our information on our Job Search Center, which is one of our biggest economic development pieces. We have between 40 and 60 people a week who come in and get assistance with their resume, prepare for interviews, apply for jobs online, even set up email addresses so that they can do that, all for free thanks to a grant from the Lower Shore Workforce Alliance. And this is located in the downtown library. It was started quite a number of years ago, but it really took off when the one-stop Job Center moved from the downtown region to the Tri-County building, we became the one stop for downtown, and we've seen an awful lot of benefit and an awful lot of success from that. So I wanted to give those to you as council members so you had some idea of the scope of things that the library's doing. One of our newest initiatives, one of our newest focuses is adult literacy. Adult literacy is a problem nationwide. It's not just Wacomico County, it's not Maryland, it's nationwide. Literacy is defined as not only the ability to read and write, but it is an individual's capacity to put those skills to work in shaping the course of their life. So while you may be able to recite the words in front of you, if you can't get information from those words and apply that information, we still don't consider you literate. Those words don't really do you any good if you can just recite them. There are 6 key literacies that people need to have in their lives in order to function in today's society. Basic literacy, which is the ability to read. Financial literacy, which is the, it deals with money. Health, technology, information, and family literacy. We'll walk through those very quickly for you this evening. These are the 6 literacies we're focusing on at the library to help people to be able to function successfully in a modern society. First is basic, reading, understanding what you read, applying what you read. That's a basic literacy. It's the thing that we teach children in school. And they want to be able to read the information, they want to be able to apply it in their lessons and write essays about it and think about it and process it. That's a literacy. 1 in 4 children in our country today grow up without the ability to read. So think about that for a minute. 1 in 4. 2/3 of the students who cannot read and are not proficient in reading by the end of the 4th grade end up in jail or on welfare. So the 4th grade is the key. Okay, if they cannot read by the end of the 4th grade, 2/3 of them end up in jail or on welfare, unable to support themselves. 85% of juveniles in the court system are functionally illiterate. If you cannot read, you cannot evaluate, process, and use information. You can't apply for a job. You can't understand your doctor's orders. You can't teach your children to read. You can't learn new technologies. And one of the big things, and this is something that Matt Massarello brought out when he spoke at our literacy breakfast, you cannot be empathetic to others whose life experiences are different than yours if you cannot read. Because you cannot experience their life. When people read a book, they're experiencing something that's outside of their own life. And they may travel to a time in the past, or they may travel to a country they haven't been to. And they can experience that. It's a secondhand experience, but it's an experience nonetheless, and put themselves in the shoes of those people. And that is a skill that is not evident in people that do not read. In adults in the United States right now, adults over 16, 14% read below the 5th grade level. 14 people out of every 100 read below the 5th grade level. 29% of those adults read at the 8th grade level, which is bare minimum. And among those with these low literacy rates, 43% live in poverty. So there's definitely a correlation. To get a job as a cook or a mechanic, you have to read at that 8th grade level in order to follow instructions. If you want to read the Social Security Benefits Guide, the one that's online, you have to read it at a 9th grade reading level. So you see these people have no access to that information. So basic literacy is welded. Academic failure and delinquency, violence and crime are welded to reading failure. This is from the Department of Justice. Illiteracy is a causal item. There's not just a correlation, it's a cause. And the Justice Department has researched this. Adult literacy, 75% of state prison inmates are illiterate. And 59% of federal prison inmates are illiterate. They cannot complete high school. They can be classified as having low literacy skills. I think if we think about it, it probably makes sense. But a lot of people this is my industry, so I think about it. But I'm hoping to help all of you think about it a little tonight. Financial literacy is the ability to understand about money, how it works, how you manage it, how other people manage it, how you earn it, invest it, maybe donate it to others. It's that whole sphere of using money wisely. 43% of Americans are financially illiterate. 43%. This is according to a Gallup poll from 2014. We are 14th in line of financially literate nations. Of the 60% of adults who have credit cards, 1 in 3 do not understand compound interest and could not answer questions correctly on it. So you wonder why we have all of this credit card debt. 30% of those who finance their homes through a bank could not correctly answer questions on compound interest. And just so we're all clear, compound interest is the interest added to the principal of a deposit or loan that then earns interest. Okay, and interest on top of that. So it's called compounding your interest. So now see, you all learned something financial tonight. Health literacy refers to how well a person can get the health information and services they need and how well they understand that information. This is one of the literacies we've talked an awful lot about in our community. And I know that PRMC is doing some work with the United Way to help promote health literacy. In the United States, only 12% of people are proficient in health literacy. Another 53% are intermediate. 22% have a basic, I know that it's really hard to read, I apologize for that, a basic understanding. They can understand simple patient instructions, and 14% are below basic. So you circle the date on the appointment slip, they can barely understand the pamphlet information about their pre-test instructions. They don't understand the side effects of their drugs. Some of them don't even understand whether or not that their prescriptions, how to take the prescriptions, or the prescription instructions. 36% of Americans have levels of health literacy below what is required to understand their typical medical instructions. So when you go pick up your prescription from the pharmacy and they give you that pamphlet that talks about the side effects and what to do and what not to take with your medicine, what not to eat with your medicine, that's information they're not getting. Literacy issues add an estimated $230 billion to the country's health care cost. And patients with low literacy skills have a 50% increased risk of hospitalization. And we all know that once you go in the hospital, it gets very expensive. Technology literacy is the ability to use technology tools effectively, access and manage, evaluate, communicate information. It's all the things that we would typically think of in a technologically savvy community. And it is becoming more and more important within our community as things go on the web, that people have a technology ability. Literacy issues cost more than $225 billion in non-productivity in the workforce because people cannot process information in a technological manner, in a digital manner, the way that they're supposed to. It also talks about loss of tax revenue due to unemployment. People are unemployable because they are not digitally savvy. And I think we're seeing that an awful lot with those middle skills jobs that Warwick is trying to prepare people for. There's a certain level of technological knowledge and use that has to be there for those. 15% of the population are not online, but of that 15%, 94 would be if they could, but they don't know how, they can't afford it, they're worried about privacy, they don't understand how that works. There's all kinds of issues that can be addressed. People that are not online, if you notice, 25% of them make under $30,000 a year. And 33% of them have less than a high school diploma. So again, we're talking about people that are going to have trouble finding and securing and keeping long-term employment because they don't have the technological skills. Information literacy is being able to recognize when information is needed and evaluate it and critique it. This is the librarian's wheelhouse. This is what we are trained to do. But everybody needs, with the web now, you all need to know how to do this. You need to be able to tell if the website's authoritative or if it's a scam. Information literacy keeps people from being scammed. Family literacy.
I think we should show some examples.
Show some example. It would be pretty. I think we could probably get Chief Duncan on the phone, and I'm sure she could give us quite a few of them. Family literacy is developing the next generation of lifelong readers and learners, and it happens when reading is part of a child's activity. But if parents or grandparents can't read, they cannot instill family literacy in children and grandchildren. It instills that love of story that we want so much out of our children. So we have a literacy problem. Wicomico's economic development issues, their unemployment issues, and their homelessness problems are literacy problems because a lot of these people that we see caught up in these issues are illiterate or functionally illiterate, which means they can read enough to, navigate around, but they find workarounds and they find ways to get around these things. So they sort of function, but they're stuck. Our solution is called Project Read. It is a project of the Rotary Club of Wacomico County, the United Way of the Lower Eastern Shore, and the library. And it is a community approach to helping to at least solve some of our adult literacy issues. It started in 1980. It provides free, confidential, one-on-one literacy tutoring for adults who want to improve basic reading and writing skills. That was the original drive. The new and improved Project Read will establish a core of volunteers and a program coordinator who we are currently looking for, even as I speak. We have a job application out there. This is a full-time job that the library will employ, and this person will oversee this program. So if you know anybody who's a reading specialist who wants to work with adults, send them my way. These volunteers, they will train the volunteer tutors, and the volunteers will then be paired with students who want this one-on-one tutoring. Project Read will hopefully, it is our goal to improve the literacy rates of adults through Wacomico County by offering this one-on-one tutoring. We will also incorporate health, financial, technology, and family literacies in the program, all those literacies I just talked about. We will do so through the use of technology. We will do so through the use of extracurricular activities, some program nights where we have family game night, the use of computers and iPads to help instruct these students. We will offer both print and digital resources. We will have technology training classes. We're already working with PRMC to try and have health literacy evenings and financial literacy workshops. The goal will be for these students to attain a high school diploma through Warwick's Adult Basic Ed program and get them enrolled in Warwick or another continuing ed program that improves their chances for successful employment. That's the goal. The goal is to teach them to read, but the goal is to teach them to read so they can do this. And that will hopefully put them back on track to be independent and to then have opportunities and have doors open to them that because they cannot read, they do not have open now. So what do I need from you? I know that's kind of where everybody's going, okay, well, what are you here for talking about this for? I want, after you've signed up yourself, of course, I want you to talk to your friends and your family and your coworkers to consider tutoring. The tutoring initiative calls for two tutoring sessions each week of no more than 2 hours, but we would encourage it to be a little over an hour. That's about most people's attention span. After about an hour, they start to lose focus. Tutors will be provided with training. They will be provided with a curriculum which our coordinator will help them develop. And we will have public spaces where that they can do their tutoring in the library. And we're also working with United Way, and perhaps some of their partners will be able to provide us with public space. And also, when you discover someone who needs literacy assistance, encourage them, introduce them to this program, and encourage them to sign up. It is confidential. No one will know who they are. We will not be sharing names. Numbers, yes. Statistics, yes, but not names, not without their permission especially. It is embarrassing to admit to somebody that you cannot read. It is embarrassing, and it is something that people don't want to do. But there are people out there who are bright and intelligent and through circumstances of life just never learned. And we want to encourage them to come and find this program. So that's really what we're asking for, is for the city and its employees to perhaps get engaged in volunteer tutoring, but even more so for the city to help its citizens find this program, because we believe that the majority of people who need it probably live within the city limits at this point. That's really all I have. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. I will tell you that this program is being funded through a grant from the United Way. They have donated $35,000 to run it for the first 2 years and help us hire our program coordinator and help us reach out into the community through their partner organizations and meet up with the people who we need to connect with.
Questions?
Well, maybe this is something maybe we can bring to a work session, and if you could come to a work session, maybe we can, as a city, find some ways that we can become a major partner in this program because obviously with the information you present, I mean, it's a very serious problem that if we don't catch it when they're young, you know, that's the foundation. But then the other piece of it is helping individuals who are past that.
Exactly.
And so that's something I think, hopefully, if the mayor is okay with it, we can look at maybe something in, whether it's a volunteer program with, you know, allowing city employees to volunteer. Maybe there's a couple things we can look at and discuss it in the work session, if everybody's okay with that.
I'd be more than happy to do that.
I just want to highlight one thing. In June 2016, in Wycomico County, the Maryland Department of Labor reports that there are 3,090 jobs available in Wycomico County. Funded, available, advertised, ready for somebody to fill it. There are 2,710 unemployed persons in Wycomico County. And this has been a trend for now about 4 months, that there are more jobs available than there are people to fill them. So if you ever think that education and training isn't important, I mean, that highlights it right there. There are people, but they may not have the skill sets to fill it. And it just reinforces how important what you're talking about is and what you're doing at the library is. So
Thank you, yes.
I just think that for me, that explains why this is so critical and what you do is so critical.
I think there are very few programs that touch all the key areas that really affect our community. This is one of those programs.
It is. We've done some research. As far as we know, there is no adult literacy program in any of the lower shore counties. All 4 counties, we couldn't find one adult literacy program. There used to be 3, but they fell victim to the funding cuts of, you know, the economic fall over the last couple of years. And so we are really, this is something that's a top priority for us now because we found that out.
Anything else? Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Keep up the good work. These kinds of programs are the things that we need to keep the momentum going. Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the legislative agenda as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Boda, Mr. Ireton, second. I'll call the motion. All those in favor of adopting the legislative agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? The chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Ireton, Ms. Jackson. Good evening, Ms. Nichols.
Good evening,
How are you?
Council, Mayor, Ms. Glanz. The consent agenda items for this evening are the May 3rd and May 10th budget session minutes, resolution number 2640 to approve a project to construct or rehabilitate a minimum of 4 homes in the greater Church Street neighborhood to be sold to low or very low income families over the next 2 years. Resolution number 2641, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Maryland Department of Natural Resources Waterway Improvement Grant Fund for the purpose of expending grant funds in the amount of $25,000 for utility pedestals at the Port of Salisbury Marina. Resolution number 2642, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Chesapeake Bay Trust for the purpose of expending Green Streets, Green Jobs, Green Towns grant funds in the amount of $75,000 for implementation of bioretention practices in the Main Street Master Plan project. And resolution number 2643, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the Maryland Department of Environment, Maryland Water Quality Financing Administration for the purpose of expending FY17 Energy Water Infrastructure Program grant funds in the amount of $132,000 for replacement of the high service pumps at the Salisbury Park Water Treatment Plant And that would be the consent agenda for this evening.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of adopting the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Ms. Nichols. I'll entertain a motion to approve the award of bids.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, thank you. The first item this evening is change order number 3 to contract 111-15. That's the design build for the fire station. The City of Salisbury Internal Services Department Procurement Division received a request from the Salisbury Fire Department to process change order number 3 in the amount of $8,288 to contract 111-15. This change order would add 17 days to the contract end date and also include 6 cost items for a total cost of $8,288.
Questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the award of bids. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I still have the surplus one as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. The last item is a request for surplus. This is a 2007 GMC Versalift bucket truck. The vehicle's over 15 years old. It has over 80,000 miles on it, and it's in poor condition. We did purchase a new bucket truck in January. The expected delivery date on that is September, October of this year. So we would like to have the current bucket truck declared surplus so that we can use it as a trade-in toward the purchase of a new bucket truck.
I was gonna-
So the new one is here?
Not yet.
No, that's.
Not yet.
That was my, but it's going to be traded in for that truck.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. The current value of that truck, we negotiated a trade-in price of about $12,000.
Any other questions? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the award of bids.
So moved.
Thank you.
Vote to Mr. Ireton. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2644.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Mr. Ireton.
Good
evening.
evening. I wanted to bring up Eagle Scout, or almost Eagle Scout, Ben Smith, if he wants to join us up here. This is his Eagle Scout project. Come on up. Do you want me to read this first and then?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution number 2644, resolution of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, accepting a donation of an informational sign at Salisbury's Public Cemetery on Commerce Street from the Friends of Poplar Hill Mansion. Whereas the Council of the City of Salisbury supports the acceptance of donations at public facilities, and whereas the Friends of Poplar Hill Mansion would like to donate to the city an informational sign explaining the history and significance of the public cemetery, and whereas the informational sign will be located on the cemetery property on Commerce Street. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland does hereby accept the donation of an informational sign valued at a maximum of approximately $745. Ben Smith can take any questions. He was the one that, it's his Eagle Scout project and has been working with Poplar Hill Mansion to make it come to a reality, so. Any other questions?
I would just like to say thank you to everybody that, like the City of Salisbury, that helped me. They were all very nice, and friends at Poplar Hill was very nice too. And any other questions or
Ben,
we
how
just
many,
talk about
how
it?
many hours have you put in over there? I know
Well,
you've been
I don't know exact how many hours, but when I made everybody sign in, there was like 3 pages of service hours, so there was a lot that went into it, plus the time of paperwork and researching proper stuff for like post. And also, the person that came down from Washington that works on the Washington monuments and cleans the, the great like White House and stuff, make sure it's still white. He came down and fixed one of the graves and showed everybody how to do it. That was a cool experience for everybody. And we fixed the pipes, and then I remade 2 foundations for 2 graves, and I stood up 22 graves, and 8 of them were completely buried in the ground.
Could I ask the question, what inspired you to do this?
Well, one, the city of Salisbury, we all have a lot of history, and I wanted to preserve the history and make sure people knew where we started and now where we are now.
Ben, is there anything in particular in the cemetery that you're on television, cameras are on, you have it now? If there's any one thing that you can recall from the cemetery that you'd like the public to know, what would it be?
Well, I would like just to say that people, we need to know how much history we have here, and because not a lot of people know about that place, and there's 51, at least as I know, 51 Union soldiers buried there, and a couple of slaves from Poplar Hill Mansion that were buried there, and really, people really don't know. So I would just like to say, we should all know the history of our city.
Could I ask you one more question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the oldest grave that was there?
There was a lot of old graves that were there. There was 1800s, and I think there was one that was 1799 or so. But there's a lot of old graves, and there is a lot of big mass graves where they, because they all had a lot of plagues and stuff, so they would just bury them so nobody got the big old disease.
Well, I can honestly say we really appreciate you doing that and researching, because as we have discussed once before about the history here in Salisbury and how a lot of our children aren't being taught the history here in Salisbury, Maryland. So I thank you for that very much.
When are you going to get your eagle?
Well, that's after I finish this. Then I go up for my Scoutmaster Conference, get 1 or 2 requirements signed off, and then my board review, and then hopefully that goes good, and I'll get my Eagle Scout.
We'd like you to come back when you get your eagle
Yes.
and recognize you.
Yes.
Thank you very much for all you've done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Quite the young man. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2389.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion.
I don't think so.
I think we did, didn't
I
we?
don't think we did.
Oh, no,
Oh,
No.
think we did.
No.
Vote again.
Do you need a
no, we
motion to do that?
no, we did a motion, but we didn't vote on
we didn't vote?
No, we didn't.
Don't leave yet,
Don't leave.
Ben. Wait just for,
Just 1 second.
we
Yes,
were
1
all
minute.
enamored of
We
your
were all-
presentation,
yeah,
we forgot to vote
we forgot
on
to
it,
vote,
so we're
so-
gonna do that now.
We'll do that now. All those in favor of resolution number 2644, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. That's unanimous.
There we go.
Now I'll entertain an ordinance, a motion for ordinance number 2389.
So moved.
Second?
All right, Mr. Boda, Mr. Ireton. Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury pursuant to Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code and Section 4.04 of Article 16B of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the purpose of amending Section 17.105.040D development standards in the Riverfront Redevelopment Multi-Use District 2. whereas the ongoing application, administration, enforcement of Title 17 and the zoning of Salisbury Municipal Code demonstrates a need for periodic review, evaluation, and amendments that will keep Title 17 current. And whereas the mayor and city council may amend Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code pursuant to the authority granted by Article 66B of the Maryland Annotated Code in accordance with specific provisions of Chapter 17.228, amendments and rezoning of Title 17 zoning. And whereas Mayor Jacob R. Day submitted a request to amend the text of Section 17.105.040D, Development Standards in the Riverfront Redevelopment Multi-Use District 2, to appropriately recognize its inclusion in the established parking tax district. And whereas a public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Planning Commission in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code on May 19, 2016. And whereas the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment to 17.105.040D, now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. And it says amend Section 17.105.040D Development Standards by adding the following language. The subparagraph D originally read parking, period. Parking shall be provided in accordance with Chapter 17.196. And the period there is being replaced with a comma, and the language being added is except where governed by the established parking tax district regulations. And be it further ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that this ordinance shall take effect from and after the date of its final passage, but in no event until 10 days after the date of the council's public hearing. The only thing that we need to do to this is the capitalized language there should also be underlined, just because that's this traditional statutory way to indicate that you're adding language that wasn't previously there. And I've done that on my copy, but it should be on yours as well.
Okay. This is also a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2389, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion passed. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2393 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Mr. Ireton. Mr. Tillman.
It's an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, pursuant to Chapter 17.128 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code and Section 4.04 of Article 66B of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the purpose of amending Section 17.84.020 to add apartments up to 4 units in the office and service residential district. Whereas the ongoing application, administration, enforcement of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code demonstrates a need for periodic review, evaluation, and amendment that will keep Title 17 current. And whereas the mayor and city council may amend Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code pursuant to the authority granted by Article 66B of the Maryland Annotated Code, and in accordance with specific provisions of Chapter 17.228, amendments and rezoning of Title 17 zoning, and whereas the mayor and city council requested that Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission periodically review Title 17 in light of existing procedural practices and input from the city council and members of the public, and whereas Nick Simpson, First Moved Properties LLC, submitted an application to amend the text of Section 17.84.020 to add apartments up to 4 units in the office and service residential district, and whereas a public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Planning Commission in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code on April 21st, 2016, and whereas the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the modified text amendment to 17.84, now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. Amend Section 17.84.020, comma, permitted uses, comma, by adding the following colon. And the text in front of you reads L period apartments up to 5 units. The text should actually read O instead of L. L was already taken in the code.
We need to amend that, or?
Yeah, I mean, this would have to be, yeah. So we should just correct that.
I'll make a motion to change it from L to O.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the amendment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Any questions? Comments? All right, if not, I'll call the motion. All those in favor to approve ordinance number 2393 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2394.
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Ireton.
Okay, ordinance number 2394 is a bond ordinance and an ordinance of the council of the city of Salisbury to authorize and empower the city of Salisbury to issue and sell from time to time upon its full faith and credit general obligation bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $4,751,500. Proceeds of the sale thereof to be used and applied for the public purpose of financing, reimbursing, or refinancing costs as defined herein, which include insurance costs and capitalized interest of the public purpose project identified herein as Spine Rail Trail, Community Centers, Riverside Circle, Service Center Facility Plan Phase 1, E7 Inspector's Truck, S14 2001 F-150 Dump Truck, S-32 Hot Patch Trailer Improvements, replacement of 1998 roller, Lemon Hill stand pipe, Fitzwater Street Lift Station Phase 2, Belt Filter Press Rehabilitation, dump truck, wastewater treatment plant, parking garage, facade and landscaping, and aquatic weed harvester with unloading conveyors, specifying the maximum principal amount of the bonds or bond anticipation notes provided for herein to be allocated to each such project subject to reallocation by the city in accordance with the applicable budgetary procedures or law, providing for the council by resolution to determine, approve, or provide for various matters relating to the authorization, sale, security, issuance, delivery, payment, and redemption of and for each series of the bonds, authorizing and empowering the council to provide by resolution for the issuance and sale from time to time of one or more series of general obligation bond anticipation notes in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $4,751,500. Prior to and in anticipation of the issuance of any of the bonds authorized hereby in order to finance or reimburse project costs on an interim basis, authorizing and empowering the council to provide by resolution for the issuance and sale from time to time of one or more series of general obligation bonds in order to refund any of the bonds issued pursuant to the authority of this ordinance, including paying issuance costs and interest on such refunding bonds, provided that the aggregate principal amount of any such series of refunding bonds shall not exceed 130% of the aggregate principal amount of the bonds refunded therefrom, providing for the levy and collection of ad valorem taxes sufficient for and pledging the full faith and credit and unlimited taxing power of the city to the prompt payment of the principal of and interest on each series of the bonds, the bond anticipation notes, and the refunding bonds authorized hereby, collectively the obligations, providing that the principal of and interest on each series of the obligations also may be paid from any other sources of the revenue lawfully available to the city for such purpose, providing that certain actions may be taken or provided for by resolution in connection with the reissuance of any of the obligations, providing that any of the obligations authorized hereby may be consolidated with any bonds, bond anticipation notes, and/or refunding bonds
Mr. Council
authorized by the
President,
council.
Could somebody tell me what line we're on, 257, 264, where are we?
52.
252.
52.
52. Yeah.
Are you gonna read all the way down to 252?
I have no intention of it.
Okay.
I was going to stop with the introductory
Just when you
language.
came up for air? Okay.
However, if forced to do so, I will stay here as long as it takes.
No, it's not necessary.
Authorized by the council and issued as a single series of bonds, bond anticipation notes, and/or refunding bonds, authorizing and directing officials and/or employees of the city to take certain actions in connection with the obligations, providing that this title shall be deemed a statement of the substance of this ordinance for all purposes and otherwise generally relating to the issuance, sale, delivery, and payment of the obligations. And that is the introduction and summary of the ordinance.
And the end of your reading.
And
Okay.
then the detail is found on page 5 with regard to the $4
Right.
million.
Just for the audience, the document is 389 lines long.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments?
I was just gonna ask, Mr. Council President, we agreed to this for $4,751,000. The largest, of course, is the Fitzwater Street lift station. I remember most of these things,
Yeah.
certainly the community centers, all the trucks. I am not familiar, however, and I tried to go back from, in my computer and do one of those little searches for aquatic weed harvester and unloading conveyor, and I was just wondering, I may have missed that one.
There was a
Does that have
discussion about
anything to do
that.
with Mr. Boda's jacket?
I missed it.
Is my question.
There it is.
I missed it too. So I think that was one of the meetings that we didn't come to.
Is that?
We missed one.
Is that?
There was,
Can you show me how that
I can
works?
speak to that.
I can't show you how it works, but I think it had something to
Mr.
do
President.
with
The
the,
mayor knows.
at the
so-
All right,
party
so
and some other.
first of all, the way that these bond ordinances get written is, it's purely a function of taking everything that's, going to be debt funded from the budget and put it right in. So there's nothing can be added, nothing can be removed. It's everything. Unless it's completely ineligible and we just messed up when we budgeted. But in this case, and as long as I've been involved, it's always, I've never seen that happen. But the aquatic weed harvester with unloading conveyor. There are a number of ponds in the area that have had significant growth of underwater aquatic vegetation. And
Cobra
it
milk.
creates a lot of overgrowth,
Yeah.
and that increases the amount of, I think it's the amount of oxygen.
It takes the oxygen out.
Which
Yeah.
leads to
Which
additional
kills them.
growth, there's additional issues. And this harvester, the intent is to, you put it on a boat, it attaches to a boat and you ride around and it actually chews up all the vegetation, kills the vegetation, and you gotta do it periodically. So this is something that we haven't had in our community for some time, and now we will, I guess. I won't be operating it.
You don't remember that, Jim? I do now.
You think I'd remember
I-
an aquatic weed
Surprise.
harvester? No, it didn't ring a bell.
I
Sorry.
will also tell you that I did make the bad mistake of asking what the belt filter press was, and Mr. Molesey left it.
Have you been to it?
Chicken.
Have you seen it in action?
It's a very
You
important
don't
part of
want to
wastewater
know, and
treatment.
you don't want to see it. But it is, I did ask that question, and all these were discussed, so I think we're okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
Wear a mask.
All right, all those in favor of approval for ordinance number 2394, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Ms. Nichols, do we have any requests for public comment?
We do not.
We do not. Okay, I want to thank everyone for,
Mr. President,
yes,
may I?
certainly.
I don't mean to interrupt
No,
if you
go
weren't
ahead.
done.
No, go ahead.
If I can, just two things. One, in 10 minutes, there will be a public meeting, and that was intended to be a neighborhood meeting. It'll be, I think, a little bit larger than that, at Reverend Tucker's Church. That's at St. James AME Zion Church, 410.
St. Paul.
I'm sorry, St. Paul AME Zion Church, 410 Delaware Avenue. That's in 9 minutes. So feel free to go over there. That'll be a community meeting that was originally intended to be focused on some thefts from motor vehicles that had happened in the Delaware Avenue area, but will be broadened and open for conversation dialogue given the recent incidents around our country. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., there will be a prayer vigil at the Cathedral of Love on Church Street. And on the Railroad Avenue, the East Railroad Avenue side of Church Street, the address is 419 East Church, if you're not familiar with it, but on the Railroad Avenue side, that piece of the street will be blocked off for a prayer vigil. They believe it'll take less than an hour, that they'll be outside. There may be some things that go on after that indoors. And then third, want to remind everyone, thank you, Councilman Ireton, for reminding me to mention that tonight, August 2nd, National Night Out in the City Park. National Night Out, if you haven't participated before, is a great opportunity to bring the community together and introduce people to our police officers and really work together to make our community a safer place. So feel free to come out to City Park. There's all sorts of fun things that go on, a lot of games, a lot of booths, things like that, and food. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great thing for kids as well. So worth mentioning that. So tonight, tomorrow night, August 2nd, 3 events, opportunities for the community and our police officers to get to know one another as people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Great, thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, Delegate Anderson, thank you again for coming. Appreciate it. With that, we are adjourned.